Hello, everybody. This is Corellius Prime. It's February 11th, 2023. After the markets have gone ahead and did their things, they had a nice rally and now they're chopping around. Too hard to make any big move trades, it looks like. We're going to have to see. I believe it might be chopping continuously for a couple weeks here. But we have the CPI on Tuesday, and that might give you some panic cycles, which we can make up and down moves or just straight moves, big moves. Those are always tough to trade. But this is more for a swing trade, and this is a journal, not financial advice for anyone in particular. It's just a journal of what I'm sharing for myself and to see what's going on, not financial advice. Hint, hint, not financial advice. So to start with, Campbell Soup. CPI is starting on Tuesday. Found out that the Campbell Soup play, we elected a weekly bullish. Now, what weekly bullishes are, they only work at the end of the week, and based on the time frames, they would be good for a week or two to see if they get that move. So if it's a weekly bullish, which it looked like we definitely elected, going to get the confirmation once I get the reports on Sunday night. But 51.15 was elected. At the close of Friday, this thing started moving up higher. They tricked everybody, keeping it down. They touched, you'll see the 50.10 weekly bearish right here. And then they took off, and now we have a trend all the way up until about, I'd say Tuesday, February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, which is also, I think, the CPI. Now, keep in mind, it's pretty obvious, inflation looks like it's going to be higher. I know my mother and my family is complaining about higher prices, but you know, everyone has their own data, but you have probably the best data by being on the street and looking at the shopping centers and seeing what's going on. But it looks like canned foods may or may not be going higher. Had a big rally and then came back down hard after earnings. Of course, you know, everything runs up and comes back down. So it might be another option here to try this at 51.15. Now, if we can get above the 51.90, which is the monthly bullish, if we can get above that at the end of the month, there's a nice play that could go right back up to make new highs on the month, which would be in this area here, 57, or actually 57.30. So we will see how that works out. But for now, it's just a weekly trade that looks interesting to me. And 51.15, possibly go past this 51.90, and then we were going to look up to 54. So gap up, maybe. Very interesting. I'm not making any trade recommendations. This is specifically for my journaling, so I can see what's happening. If it works, great. I feel like a great trader. If it doesn't, I'll learn from it. And you know, I know my risk. My risk is 50-10, around that area. Anywhere I feel where I get my entry, I know if it goes below there and closes below the weekly bearish, then we're exiting, and we want to make sure we're exiting big time. Now, it could gap down. I don't know how the markets will work. You know, they all do their own things. But if you go below 50-10, here is the weekly chart on the bottom left. If you go below this 50-10, you got a gap down to 47.10. That's pretty scary. So that means it could touch it, not straight, but it could get there sooner or later within 3 weeks or so, maybe more. Then with 51.15, we got a little bit of resistance here, and we have a weekly trend possibly. Now this was a daily. You can see it popped up from this bottom here, but we're still an inside trade. So we have a little bit of momentum possibly going higher into 51.90, and then if we break through there, it could go back up to the prior monthly's bullishes that were elected up there. The momentum, which is down to the bottom, is starting to turn up. That's a good sign. So this may be of interest trade. Going to document it here. Don't know exactly where the market's going to go, but have a higher probability that this could go higher, and I'm going to play that. You can see the dailies as well. We're starting to get a little bit of a turn on the momentum came down here. It's bouncing back up on the stochastics and the momentum. So that should be interesting. Let's see what happens. But that is one of interest for the Campbell Soup. Go figure. Good dividend play too. So we'll keep that around and see what happens. The other one that was interest after looking through some of the numbers was a stock BEP. Hard to borrow. Not really familiar trading with it, but it did pop up a signal that we elected I'm going to go to the weekly because it's easier to see. a weekly. This is a weekly here on the left. The middle is the monthly, and this is the quarterly. And the top is the daily. You'll see we already elected a weekly at 27.65. Our next target will be 25.20. Now we've already made a new low, so this means with this week we could bounce and retest it, and then come back down to 25.20. So that is the weekly outlook. Looks pretty, pretty nasty. Now looking at the daily, we elected this weekly, you see here, and then a daily bearish. That's the orange, but we held by the second one. Now these dailies don't really work too well. They don't give that much support, but sometimes they do. So it's better to get a weekly or a monthly. Those are really nice, but those happen at the end of the week. Obviously a weekly bearish or bullish, and the end of the month is a monthly bearish or bullish. So that's how I play those. And this 27 held, so we may, and then we have a directional change. We may have a retest, which happens, of this weekly bearish at 27.65 in BP. And then if we do, it could be a low risk. There should be a low risk trade to the downside, possibly, that I'm journaling. I'm not saying it's financial advice or anybody else. I'm not recommending to do that. I have no idea. I'm just playing this system and my system to see how it works out and journaling it. But 27.65 gets retested, and then boom, we could go down to 25.20. I would probably get a little concerned if it breaks these new highs, but the real exit point is it's 25.57. That would be going up to the 29.63. So again, this one we'll have to see when it opens up on Monday, but there's a possibility it could just gap all the way through or go all the way down up to 27.65 retest and then come through this 27. And we have a directional change this next next day, the Monday, the 13th, and we'll have to see how that goes. So those are two of the only trades that I'm journaling that shows any type of opportunity. The rest of the indexes are super choppy, can't get an understanding of where it's going to go, so I'm not even going to play it. I'll give you the entertainment to give you where some resistance points are. Very, very tough to call. So just doing ratio spreads on both sides here, trying to play it both sides. If you're selling options, you got this area. Now this is interesting. This is SPX, the S&P, the SPY, same thing basically. We held this 40.5750 on the week. So we came down with a directional change. Now if you look last week, you see these three green lines. These are weekly bullishes that closed above, and that's normal. We usually retest, and then we go and make a new high. You can see it from the last week. Over here on Monday, January 23rd, we had a weekly bullish that we closed above, way above it. We had to literally retest and then go to the next. We made a new high. Now, we retested, but we have one more week here, which could go to this new high up here, possibly, just possibly, up to 43.25. That's your max. Those are the weeklies. Now, it could go up there, and I know it's hard to believe, but that is something that's possible. So we will see. Now, if that fails, we know we have a pretty good, if we close on a Friday of next week below 40.5750, there is a possible gap down to 39.1820, which could happen pretty wild if that goes. But we'll have to see. So right now, it's just, you got some ups and you got some downs here. It's more leaning to the one more high. And then when it gets, I believe, everybody kind of on the wrong side, then they maybe take them down. But we'll see. Who knows? The probability here still lies to go to the upside because we held this 40.57 weekly bearish. And we do have a directional change for February. Now, looking at the monthly, we had a directional change here and a directional change here. The month is still not over, so I can't really call what's going to do, but we have two trends that are kind of ending here, and I'll do other videos on that with how these trends will end. But we had a turning point last month, and now it's, if it makes new highs, which it did, it could go all the way up into this next point of March. Very interesting. But we'll see. Can't even say for sure. Looking at the daily, just too much going on. The good thing about the daily, which gives me a hint, is we had a new low, what if bullish for the day, elect right here, but we are closing below the January high. So kind of tough call. The next one, if we get above 41.24, we are gapping up all the way up to 42.03. So 41.24.63, if we close above that on a day range, unless there's some new reversals get popped in here, we can gap up all the way to 42.03 on a sharp move. Maybe the CPI, maybe not sure. But there is some hole here that needs to be filled. Now, if we go through 457, like I said on the weekly, below 448, there can be a sharp move down that can get all the way to 39.7150 on the S&P. So those are numbers. Too hard to play. I'm playing a ratio spread. I really don't want to be too much into this. Small ratio spread, and on the top and the bottom, kind of just playing both sides, but leaning a little bit bullish here as these weekly bullishes may hold. And since that weekly bearish just bounced off, we will see. Hard to call on that one. And the other is the NASDAQ. Now, NASDAQ is really weird. It's the market. It's not really weird. It's just the market trying to tell us something. No clue. This arrow is just entertainment purposes only. I have no idea if this thing's going to go back up. But this big pink line is the superposition reversal weekly bearish that was hit. And you can see, boom, we came down. We usually need to make a new low. But I have from the data some weekly bearishes that are popped up and then they got removed. I'm still keeping them there. These look like they're important. And I'll see what the data coming in on Sunday after everything gets calculated from the computers on Friday's close. And then we will see. But this was a panic cycle. You can see this P here on this week. So what a panic cycle is, there's three ways. It goes up and then down, goes down and then up, or up, down, and then back to the close. Or just a straight big move. So panics are big moves, and they're hard to kind of identify with, but it's a choppy move most of the time. Or they fake everybody out to the downside and they flash up, or they fake everybody up to the upside and flash down. So that's kind of what the panic is here. We're kind of moving around. We held this crash point number, and the thing is with the NASDAQ, we had a super and a bullish. So a bearish and a bullish, but this is heavier. This bearish is heavier. So we will see how this all works. Now looking in the longer term of the monthly, we're still above the monthly high here. And the only challenge is we touched this monthly bullish and couldn't get above it. But we have chop all these months, daily directional change, directional change, directional change. And then finally another directional change on April. So hard to play this in any move. That's why I'm playing ratio spreads. And I think it's going to be chopping around. Even though it's going to be ugly, it's going to be chopping around. There's not a really great spot to set up until we get below possibly this on a closeout, on an end of a week close. And that would push us further, which may happen because we still have that super there. So let's see what happens. Looking at the daily, we held again the weeklies, but not that bullish on the NASDAQ per se. We are below a bullish monthly, but we're not even close to the end of the month, which is right here. So we really don't want to mess with that just yet. But keeping this it's a little bit, a little bearish, in my opinion, just keeping this superposition reversal. But we held these weeklies here. So let's see what happens next week. Now, the other is the Dow Jones, the other index, and this has been choppy. I did a nice short, I'm going to document here, on this when it touched this 34.164, which is a daily bullish, these yellows. Didn't close above it. And then we had some trend set in here, and then a directional change on this day. This went all the way down, and then we elected this weekly bearish. I'm sorry, this daily bearish on this orange right here. I was assuming that we get down to the next point, 33.273, but we got 3 days until that happens. So we made a new low, which means that might have been it. But we went down, made a new low. So new low is made. I thought we would maybe get down here on a flash crash, but maybe it's not time because we went right back above a new daily bullish that was put in because we made a new low and it closed above it. Now we have some resistance up here, so I'm not sure how high that's going to go. Maybe retest and go and then fall through. This is just too choppy to guess. Not even going to play it that way. Don't even know. But if we look in the longer term, it's kind of giving us a little bit of a hint. We're below. If we make a new high for the month, our resistance are way up here. and this would be a support if we make a new high. Right now it's nothing, but this is a new high what if bearish reversal for the month, 3,400. So we'll have to play that. Dow is right now choppy and really hard to short unless it was short term. Just took a quick boom, half profit there, and then took exit once it got above here, took exit on the trade. Let's see what happens. Targets 33,275, but we have some possible moves higher, but it's just kind of hanging out there. So it's going to be choppy and not easy to play, which the market never is. But we got to listen to the market and tell us what to do and see what happens. So the only two plays that I'm journaling from my personal little journal at Corelius Prime is Campbell Soup. Looks like an interesting play moving into the CPI. Again, 54, 55 area, 57? Who knows? But the risk is very tiny. Maybe below this channel that I'm looking at, the 50-10 is a weekly bearish. So we have to watch that and make sure if it closes below that 50-10 at the end of the week, we got to I'm going to have to be very careful to make sure that if any longs are there, we're exiting. Again, this is not financial advice. This is just my journal of kind of what I'm seeing in the market and see if it works, and document it here on YouTube and other places and go from there. So Campbell Soup, and on the downside, BEP could have a gap down. Put the weekly here. There's gap down here from 27, which we already made a new low. Could it retest and come down? Or is that it? I don't know. We have a directional change next week, so we may get this move up here. We'll get more data once we see it, but we're kind of going to probably chop around, and I believe the 25.20 may hit unless this thing gets above 25.87 or at least this high. We could see a return back up. So those are the points. Only two things I could see on my myopic view of the markets here right now. But this is just for journal purposes, not financial advice. Corelius Prime, if you like the information, subscribe. Going to be doing a couple other videos posted on Monday once I get new data, see if there's any opportunities. And once the new data comes in, kind of talk about the charts and see where we go. Again, this is just analytical data. I don't really go based on the news. I don't day trade. And these are swing trades to see if there's anything. And also have some other great stuff on CoreliusPrime.com. You can see when we got in at the lows for Amazon and we got in the lows for Dow, S&P. We've been sitting in it for a while getting some dividends and on some other high dividend plays like Campbell Soup. So who knows? Market's kind of hard to understand, but you got to listen to it and see where it goes and have low risk and high rewards. Hope you had fun. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Corelius Prime. Subscribe. Do whatever you want. Comment. And I'll talk to you later.